Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, where you can sign up to be a member of the Shannons Club, your local Holden certified service centre, Pace Farm the enjoyable egg, and Heron Forbes Machinery House, where you can buy online.
G'day, I'm Fletch and welcome to today's show. This is my 1972 Cadillac Calais. It's actually yet to be featured on the show, but driving this around just reminds me of the United States of America all day long. And on that note, we actually have Mark from Shannons on the phone now as we talk about some of our earlier trips that we did around the United States of America in this week's Classic Restos on the road. With me now on the phone, we have the National Marketing Manager of Shannons Australia, Mark Behr. So, Mark, welcome to the best show that you could be involved with right now.
It's always a pleasure, Fletch.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you, Mark. So what's happening at Shannons?
Oh, look, Shannons is going, fantastically well. I mean, the classic car market is certainly growing, and interest in all classics, but particularly on Australian classic vehicles as well. As you know, with the end of local manufacturing, there's no more Falcons and Commodores and so on. So the interest in local classics has really, gone through the roof, right up until the very final models that they produced.
Absolutely, and of course the Shannons Club rolling along nicely, around 130,000 members a month going through the Shannons Club now.
Yeah, and about 1.5 million unique visitors every year, so it's massive hub. So if you're not on the Shannons Club, you should certainly check it out. There's
just so much on, and I've just got to touch on this. There's so much on the Shannons Club. Apart from the in-house productions, Legends of Motorsport, Shannons Club TV, Driven, End of an Era. Of course, Classic Restos is there as well. But not only that, it's all the other associated links there, Mark, like car club links, competitions. It's just such a diverse website.
Oh yeah, there's so much there. There's forums, and even outside of the other channels, there's member videos that they also post on their own vehicles as well.
Absolutely. So check it out, as you know, shannons.com.au. Now, Mark, you're joining with me once again. We reminisce about the United States trips that we do. We haven't done them for a couple of years now due to the way the world is, but fingers crossed down the track it will happen again. But at least in the meantime, what we can do is talk about the older trips that we've done. And because there's been so much content filmed, I know you're watching there that you might have forgotten about some of the things and the places that Mark and I have been to and people that we've met. So, Mark, there's one of the first trips we did when we go back to around 2013. Now, these early trips of myself and Mark from Shannons in the United States of America with these episodes. Now, Mark, you planned a lot of these places that we went to. We met great people like Chris Pekoski at the Visitors Bureau of Detroit as well, and helped to open a few doors there. But these first trips, like I just mentioned, were planned by you, and you came up with some great stuff. And I've got to say, probably our first trip, a 2.5-hour drive from Detroit in Michigan to Hickory's Corner. Well, what do we say about the Gilmore Museum?
The Gilmore Museum is absolutely one of the best car museums in the world, bar none. And if you are a car enthusiast of any persuasion, you should absolutely check it out. And even the surroundings, where you find the museum itself, is just in a beautiful part of the world.
It's absolutely a jaw-dropping experience. Even when you pull up to the Gilmore, you're driving through miles of just the luscious green countryside. And of course you think, how can a museum be out here? But they are, and that's what the United States is renowned for. And to think that it was started by Donald and Genevieve Gilmore a lot of years ago. And it's interesting how the museum side of things started, because Genevieve bought her husband a classic car back in the 60s, and it went from there. He got the car, he loved the car that she bought him, and hey, I might start collecting. Next thing you know, 90 acres was purchased, and the old barns were disassembled, they were relocated, and he put the barns around the 90-acre property, which are now the showcase museums for our cars.
I need something like that for myself, Fletch.
Yes, well, I still haven't written that off for you yet, Mark. I think that could happen down the track.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic museum, and I think the old barns are just magnificent in their own right. But the fact that you walk into those old barns, and they're beautifully restored. When we say old barns, like they're very nicely restored. But inside, there's just a massive collection of cars, and there's lots of themes in different barns as well.
Absolutely, and like Mark said, we're not talking 20 foot by 20 foot square sheds here. We're talking gigantic. We're talking big enormities here. Timber, old timber from the late 1800s that have built these barns, incredible structures. And when we were there the first time, we looked across and we saw the foundation, the civil works were going on, the earthworks were going on for what is now the Lincoln dealership replica, which is outstanding. And across from that is a Cadillac dealership. And when you watch this next piece, you will see that in the background. And that was my opportunity when we went there in 2013, and I caught up with the executive director, Michael, of the Gilmore Museum. Moving through the magnificent Gilmore Car Museum, I am finding it hard to put words to this. We have Michael now, the executive director. How are you, Michael?
I'm great. How are you, Fletch?
I'm good. Wow, what do we say? Where do we go from here?
It's kind of tough.
I've been to a lot of places and seen a lot of things on Classic Restos that this is the epitome. Incredible.
Well, thanks very much. It's really a hidden secret. A lot of people don't know about this place, but all I have to do is get them here one time, and that's all it takes.
All the museums are fantastic, but I think what's incredible with the Gilmore is the way that it's spread out and just multiple barns and, just different allocated areas for so many different things. We've got the fuel station, we've got a diner, we've got beautiful property. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
We can have some of the most marvelous car shows you've ever seen in these grounds. They can be big, they can be small, they can be any size at all, but we have great fun here every year.
You've said that line a few times before, haven't you, Mike?
I sure have.
Now, this particular barn we're standing in here, just tell us a little bit about the history here.
Well, this came from a mint farm about 60 miles away, and this farm produced all the mint for Wrigley Spearmint gum, which many people are familiar with. It's very historic. I think it was built in the 1880s, and it still survives today. And I think what's in it now is better than hay any day.
Who would have ever thought years ago that the old chewing gum factory would have been turned into a preservation house for these marvellous cars?
Well, why not, Fletch? Why not? No better use.
Michael, when people come to the Gilmore Car Museum, what can they expect to see?
Our collections are really diverse and really eclectic. We focus primarily on American automobiles, but there's a little European as well. We have the Classic Car Club of America Museum here, which includes just about everything. We decided some time ago that if we focus just in one area, we can do that very well.
Where do all the cars come from?
Well, most of the cars are owned by the museum. The majority are. We have special exhibits where we have a lot of cars here on loan, which we have right now with the traditional hot rod and customs exhibit. We have loan cars for our Hudson exhibit. And for those special exhibits, people are more than happy to loan their cars. Otherwise, most of the cars belong here to the museum.
The expansion of the museum is exciting as well. There's more construction across the way. What's going to be happening there soon?
Right there, that's the new Lincoln Motor Car Museum, and across the street from that, breaking ground this month, will be the new Cadillac Lasalle Museum as well.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannon's home and contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannon's.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
When it comes to cars, there are some brands that will remain with us forever, no matter what. The Holden was always Australia's own car, held high in the hearts of many. Those lines, that chrome, the stories around them and the people that owned them. From the classic through to the final, you can still trust in genuine Holden and AC Delco parts, available through the Holden Certified Service Network. Welcome back. With me now we have Mark Behr, the Executive Marketing Manager of Shannons Australia. How you doing, Mark?
All good, Fletch. Great to be here.
Thank you. You having fun?
As always.
You'd have to be on this episode of Classic Restos.
How could you not?
Now, if you've just joined us, we're talking about the early trips that Mark and I have done to the United States of America, and another trip, or part of the trip that Mark played a big part in organising. In our first year, having a look around Detroit, we went out to Chesterfield to the Stahls collection. And wow, what a museum. Once again, Mark, what an incredible place.
I mean, the array of vehicles, the number of vehicles, and the quality of the vehicles on display, I mean, it is jaw-dropping, isn't it?
Yeah, around 80 vehicles are there, and what I like is it's just such a broad a cross-section. For example, the brass era through the Art Deco period. I think the Art Deco period, the 30s cars, and gets back, we always mention him, rest his soul, our dear friend Wes Myrick, and even Wes said, he said, Fletch, they built good cars back in the 30s. And when we look at some of these Art Deco period cars from the 30s at the Stahls collection, they're just mind-blowing. They were incredible machines, and they're all on display.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that V16 Cadillac. I mean, some of the engines that they built back then as well. But the styling, the quality, the attention to detail, you know, they were really magnificent cars. And a lot of those, you know, the larger engine vehicles will be able to keep up with the traffic today.
Absolutely. And to think too that the roads back then, they would never have been able to fully stretch their legs to their full potential. For example, you know, they've got from memory, an 1886 Daimler, a prototype. There's a couple of muscle cars there from the 60s. It's just the period of style and the evolution. But talking of the evolution as well, the museum itself rotate a lot of stock, and a lot of the museums, even here in Australia, they do the same thing. And that's a cool thing about it, because if you go back every year, there's always something different to see, and I think that's the key to it.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting, doesn't it?
Now, also at the Stahls collection, not only the classic cars, but the gas pumps, the memorabilia, and the automated musical instruments dating back to the earliest 20th century. That gigantic Mortimer, the 97. It's the big dance organ. It was built back in the 20s. It takes up like a whole wall.
Yeah, I remember that. It's almost like an early version of a computer, isn't it?
Absolutely. The Stahls collection, obviously a fantastic place to visit when you manage to get to Detroit. And I caught up with one of the automotive curators there, and his name was Bill, to have a bit of a chat.
When you come to Detroit, be prepared to see a string of museums and car collections. It is certainly endless. We have Bill now, the curator at Stahls Auto Collection. How are you, Bill?
Good, sir. How you doing?
I'm great. You got a good job, haven't you?
Well, Fletch, I think I got the best job in the world. I really do.
I'll tell you what, if you're on the broom, you do the best job. This is an awesome floor.
Well, I have somebody else coming to do that.
You could have taken the credit then, Bill.
No, I don't like to lie.
Look, presentation's everything. These cars are encapsulated around each other's presence, and they all have a story to tell. A 1948 Tucker. You've heard me mention about the Tucker before. I really do like to go on about the Tucker because it competed against the big three, and as you know, Preston Tucker was really and truly knocked out of the ring. Here's one of the surviving cars. How did you come about getting this one, Bill?
This car was bought from Hyman's out of St. Louis, Missouri, but the car itself came from Stone Mountain, Georgia. It was in a small museum down there, and the gentleman that owned it actually got this one in the movie with, you know, the Tucker movie. It was actually in there. Yeah. So, and I was at a car show with Mr. Hyman, and he asked me if I was looking for anything. I said, well, if you have a Tucker in your back pocket, I'll take it. And he says, I just happen to have one.
Let's look at some design features. For a start, we've got a rear-mounted engine.
Yes, you do. You got a 6-cylinder flat opposing pistons. Most people are under the misconception that it was air-cooled. It's not air-cooled. It's actually water-cooled. When Preston Tucker took over the company, the engine company itself, he had to reconfigure the engine to make it work well. Sure. At 6,000 feet in a helicopter, this engine stays cool. Yes. In a compartment at ground level, it doesn't stay cool. So he reconfigured, put a water jacket on it, and got it to work.
And plus, laying the engine horizontal too, it required an oil pan.
Yes, it did. It did. You didn't have the pressurized system that you did with the air craft engine.
Bill, horsepower, 160. You were alluding earlier that you thought it was more.
I think it's more like 190. Yeah. This car does not stand still when you get going with it. It doesn't. It's not slow on takeoffs. Once you hit that foot feed, you're gone.
Let's look at the body now. The crash zone on the passenger side. Now, that's an interesting concept. Tell us about that.
That was something that came out of the era of, Preston Tucker's, building stuff for the military. He had thought, if in the cars they had a place where they could protect themselves in a crash, people could survive better. So on the right-hand side, you have a big compartment. If they see you're going to be in an accident, you jump in there and you do the fetal position and you be safe.
Wow, hey? You don't need a seatbelt. If you've got time, just jump down under where the dashboard should be. What a concept. We've also got suicide doors here as well. That's a unique style. We've got lots of room in this car. Torpedo styling. I mean, I give it 10 out of 10. I've got such a soft spot for these cars.
Yeah, this car is probably going to be an iconic car for decades and generations to come. It's just such a beautiful machine.
When I was a kid, I loved cars. Still do. The 57 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham was the most advanced car in the world. Cost more than a Rolls. Hand-built with a stainless steel roof, cruise control, electric seats, and would you believe, air suspension. American iron. It's a passion Shannons understand. That's why they insure my daily drive, the caddy, my bike, even the house.
Call Shannons on 13 46 46. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
They may not be making the classic Holden anymore, but the legacy lives on. You can still have a Holden certified service using genuine Holden and AC Delco quality parts at over 180 centres across Australia. Go to holden.com.au to find your nearest centre. Book your Holden in, maintain the pride. Got a classic? Got to get it with Shannons. Why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646? And keep in mind too that the Shannons Club awaits you with their own in-house productions, such as Shannons Club TV, Legends of Motorsport, Driven, End of an Era. You can catch Classic Restos there as well, along with a host of other really cool stuff awaiting you as Australia's largest and most comprehensive online automotive hub. For more information, visit shannons.com.au. Welcome back. On the phone with me now, Mark from Shannons. You all know Mark, we do our trips to the United States each year when the world allows us to. But in the meantime, we're talking about some of our old trips. And Mark, you're still with us?
Still here, Fletch.
There you go. See, the phone just, it's been kind to us. It hasn't dropped out yet, so that's great. Now, around the Detroit, Michigan area, we've spent a lot of time there, and you've organised a lot of these places we went to in the early years. And another incredible place, around a 3-hour drive from Detroit down to South Bend in Indiana, well, it would have to be the Studebaker Museum. Again, a 55,000 square foot building, multiple levels, climate controlled to take care of the condition of the cars. And I know back then that this was a very dear place to your heart as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a fantastic museum, and I've always been fond of Studebakers. I actually have a Studebaker Lark, and I've had a Lark sort of in the past, which I always thought was a great little car. But Studebaker's got such a rich history. It was one of the oldest car companies in the world, and they started off making wagons, and really put Studebaker back on the map, in the late 50s and early 60s.
Yeah, and of course all these places too, they're always they're adorned with history. Henry and Clem Studebaker were blacksmiths. They started back in 1862. Of course, they had a career of manufacture with horse-drawn buggies, and this is interesting. They made an electric car we talk about the electric technologies now. Studebaker had an electric car back in 1902, and Thomas Edison actually bought the second one off them.
They were into hybrids back then, Fletch.
They were, and they did performance cars. Studebakers were they used to like with Packard, they used to punch pretty high above their weight. And sadly, production ended in March of 1966 for Studebaker. So quite a healthy career for them.
Yeah, I mean, they made such an array of vehicles, as you say, horse-drawn wagons. They even did coaches for presidents. In fact, the Studebaker Museum, I think, has got one of Abraham Lincoln's coaches there. They did wartime vehicles. They did, tractor vehicles. They did trucks. Full array of cars, and really, it's an amazing company. As you say, they did punch above their weight.
And getting around the Studebaker, as we did, we had an opportunity to catch up with Andrew, one of the curators there at this incredible establishment. With me now I have Andrew Beckmann, the archivist here at the Studebaker Museum. What a place. How are you, Andrew?
Just fine, Fletch, thank you.
That's good. Look, I've got to commend you. Again, another outstanding museum. I wouldn't mind $10 for every museum there is within the region.
Indeed, there's quite a number of places that folks can visit. Here, Auburn, Court, Duesenberg, Gilmore, all within an easy day's drive of one another.
So, Andrew, tell us about the museum. Where does it start with you?
Well, the Studebaker Museum got its start when Henry and Clem Studebaker screwed together their first wagon back in 1852. Fast forward a few years, and Clement Studebaker, now president of the Studebaker Brothers Manufacturing Company, decides to start collecting some vehicles for the company's private museum. The Lincoln and Lafayette carriages came on board, along with a few other carriages of Studebaker's manufacture. And today, that collection has grown to be the 120 vehicle collection we have here at the Studebaker National Museum. The museum's upper-level gallery represents the later part of Studebaker's history, starting about the mid-1930s up until the bitter end.
It's great to see the evolving platform of Studebaker, particularly the Larks. I mean, when they, towards the ends, I mean, what some beautiful designs, weren't they?
Indeed, the Studebaker's later years, their calling card was styling, and they really knew how to put together a handsome car, and unfortunately the sales didn't always follow, but today those are really the most highly sought after Studebaker models.
Yeah. Mark, moving on from the Studebaker Museum, we went back to Tiffin, Ohio, and of course our dear friend Murray Park is there. I think it's almost the backbone of every American trip. We always look forward to spending time with Murray and Mindy, his family. We spend a few days there, and it's a nice part of the trip, isn't it, just to kick back for that 5 days, because we never know what we're going to find, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Tiffin's a lovely little country town. Obviously, Murray's a great guy and his family with all the cars, and we normally make that one of our first stops after the Hershey swap meet.
And we've got Christina, Murray and Mindy's eldest daughter, a lovely girl, and you've seen her on Classic Restos before, driving along. We had the opportunity to talk to her before her 1958 DeSoto Fireflight was even fully restored. It was still in the barn, in Murray's barn there. Wasn't on the road at this point, and I did an interview with Christina talking about her up-and-coming restoration, which I think for any person of that age to get into a classic car of that calibre is just amazing, Mark.
Absolutely, and we need the younger enthusiasts to keep the hobby alive.
We certainly do. Have a look at this. We go back to the year of 2013 when I managed to catch up with Christina to talk about her 1958 DeSoto. When we talk of the next up-and-coming generation, I have it right here. Welcome to today's show, Christina.
Thanks, Fletch.
Tell us, you're a lucky girl. You've got this gorgeous 1958 Fireflight. What do you tell us about it?
I got the car a few years ago, and I just fell in love with it when my dad brought it home, and I asked him if I could have it and work on it myself so I can have it when I'm older. And he said if I worked on it myself, I could have it.
Wow. How old are you now, mind me asking?
13.
13?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty good, isn't it? 13 years of age and having a 58 Fireflight. It's good too that you're inspired. I mean, I know, you've got the support of your family, of your mum and dad and your younger sister as well, which is really nice. And you've grown up around cars. And boy, when we say she's grown up around cars, has she grown up around cars? Over 1,000 of them now, right?
Yeah.
So how does it make you feel about that?
Oh, I really like the cars. They're really cool, and I definitely have a privilege that most people don't.
Absolutely, that's right. And I mean, a lot of the younger up-and-coming generations today, they're into the later model cars, and that's not their fault. It's just that that's what's around. For you to have an appreciation for something that's half a century old is kind of really special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very special.
So you're looking forward to getting your hands dirty?
Oh yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. So when do you think it'll start?
Oh, hopefully soon. I think we're going to start with the engine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you've got to work this in with high school as well?
Yeah. I'll do it when I'm not working on homework.
That's wonderful. Hey, that's so good, isn't it? Restoring the car with a dad, and I just think that's great therapy as well. Christina, thank you so much for being on today's show, and I wish you a lot of luck with this project, and I'm sure it's going to be absolutely beautiful when it's finished.
Thank you so much, Fletch.
Now, Mark, I'd like to thank you once again for being a special part of this Classic Restos episode, and keep up your fantastic work with Shannons.
Thanks very much, Fletch. Always good to reminisce on these episodes.
And fingers crossed for down the track, and we'll hopefully get back over there and, well, just film some more, hey?
Absolutely. Yep, looking forward to it.
Good on you. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Fletch. All the best.
You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, where you can sign up to be a member of the Shannons Club, your local Holden certified service centre, Pace Farm the enjoyable egg, and Heron Forbes Machinery House, where you can buy online.